When we first walked into the ballroom, Leo gasped so loud, heads turned. "Mom, is this real?" he whispered. His little fingers clutched around mine like we'd landed in another universe. It felt like that, honestly. My name is Sophia. I'm 34, a paramedic in Jersey City, and a single mom to the best 8-year-old kid I know. I work long shifts, drive a car that rattles if you turn too sharp, and buy most of my clothes secondhand, like the gown I was sweating through now. Navy blue, floor length, slightly itchy, bought off a consignment rack for $42 and altered by my neighbor's cousin in exchange for a bottle of wine. Leo looked like a miniature gentleman, though his tie was crooked and one sock was already slipping down in his shoe. We didn't belong here. The place was massive, vaulted ceilings, glittering chandeliers, and a jazz trio playing like they'd been hired from a movie set. Waiters glided past with trays of champagne, and I saw at least 3 people I recognized from daytime TV, including the weather guy with the very white teeth. Natalia's gala was a spectacle. Of course it was. My little sister never did anything small. She always had this golden glow around her. Perfect hair, a voice that made people lean in when she talked. When she landed that hosting job on Channel 12, the whole family treated her like she'd won an Oscar. I remember because I was the one who took the bus to pick up her dry cleaning the day before her first live segment. I wasn't invited that day either. But tonight, I had been invited. Personally even. A cream-colored envelope had shown up in my mailbox last month, with my name written in careful calligraphy. No note, just an invitation. I stared at it for 2 straight hours before I let myself feel it. Hope. Maybe this was a peace offering, a step forward, a seat at the table again after all these years. Leo pulled at my hand. "Mom, look at the big piano. That guy's playing it like in a movie," I smiled. "It's called a grand piano, baby." This is the fanciest thing I've ever seen. Me too, I thought, by a mile. Then I saw her, Natalia, holding a champagne flute, surrounded by people, laughing just loud enough. She wore a shimmering silver gown and looked like she belonged on a billboard. And when she spotted me, her smile froze. Just for a second. "Sophia," she said, stepping forward with her signature, public-ready smile. Her voice was low and warm. Not the way she used to talk to me, but the way she talked to her viewers. "Glad you made it." She kissed the air beside my cheek, then turned her eyes toward Leo. "This must be Leo," she said. "Wow, look at you, so handsome," Leo beamed. "Are you the one on TV?" She laughed lightly and nodded. "That's me." I waited. For warmth, for sincerity, for even the smallest flicker of real affection. But then she looked past me, already distracted by a man in a tux with a camera crew behind him. She didn't ask how we were, didn't say she was happy to see me, just turned with a polite smile and walked away. I turned to my mother. She was a few feet away, sipping something from a crystal glass. She looked straight at me and then looked away. Leo didn't notice. He was too busy marveling at the ballroom, the lights, the huge cake with gold flakes. He tugged at my arm. "Mom, are we back now? Are we part of the family again?" My heart twisted. I nodded slowly. "We're here, aren't we?" And I said it like it meant something, like it was the start of something. But the truth hung heavy inside me. I wasn't sure if we were welcome at all. We were seated at a table near the coat room, tucked behind a marble column that partially blocked our view of the main stage. It wasn't even a full table, just one of those extra setups probably added at the last minute for overflow guests. I could feel the draft from the hallway every time someone opened the door. Leo was struggling with his tie again. "It's choking me," he whispered, tugging at it like it was a leash. "Here," I said, crouching next to him. "Let's loosen it a little." "You're not a penguin, you're a kid," he laughed, his breath sweet with the breath mints he'd begged for on the drive over. I straightened his collar and smoothed his hair, trying not to notice the sideways glances from 2 women across the aisle. Polished, glossy, quiet judging. One of them leaned toward the other and murmured something. I didn't hear it, but I knew the tone. I'd heard it before. Dinner had barely started, and I already felt itchy in my skin. My gown tugged at the wrong places. The seat cushion was too thin. I glanced toward the head table, where Natalia sat beside a local councilman and the lead anchor from her station. Cameras flickered every few seconds. She looked like a painting, flawless and radiant. Every time she laughed, someone leaned closer. At one point, I caught my mother's eye again. She was sitting 2 tables up with extended family, Cousins, in-laws, people I hadn't seen since the christening of someone's child years ago. She turned her head smoothly, lifting her wine glass like I wasn't even there. Leo leaned over, grinning. Mom, look at Aunt Natalia's dress. She looks like a real-life princess. I nodded. She sure does. Do you think they'll let us talk to the band? I want to see the drums. I forced a smile. Maybe later, sweetheart. A server placed tiny plates of something complicated in front of us. Leo poked at it with his fork. Is this chicken? It's called duck confit. I read off the menu card. He wrinkled his nose. It smells weird. Try it anyway. Be brave. Across the room, I could hear my mother's voice. Natalia just did an interview with Senator Keene. Did you see it? She's a natural on screen. So poised. Such grace. More laughter. Another toast. Every word was loud enough for our table to hear. None of it aimed our way. Natalia walked by just as Leo took a brave bite of his duck. She paused near our table, not to greet us, but to smile for a photographer. Then her eyes flicked toward me. She tilted her head and smiled. You clean up better than I expected. There was a chuckle from the table behind us. 2 of our cousins and their husbands. The kind of laugh that hides behind wine glasses. I smiled back. So do you. It must be exhausting being this perfect all the time. Her eyes narrowed, but she kept her smile in place. I guess it just comes naturally. She didn't stop walking. Didn't look at Leo. Didn't ask how we were. Leo turned to me, oblivious to the tension. She's so fancy. I want to be like her when I grow up. I felt my throat tighten. That's nice, baby, I said softly, brushing invisible crumbs from his lap. You can be whoever you want. But in that moment, I couldn't tell if I was protecting him from the cold or just shielding myself from the truth. Because no matter how bright the chandeliers sparkled, we were sitting in the shadows, and everyone else seemed just fine with that. The lights dimmed just slightly as the jazz trio ended their set. A hush fell over the crowd, a practiced sort of silence, like everyone already knew what was coming. Natalia stepped onto the stage, heels clicking, gown shimmering under the spotlight. She didn't need a microphone, but one was handed to her anyway, more for effect than necessity. She took a breath, held her glass aloft, and smiled that smile, the one that could sell toothpaste and car insurance in the same commercial. Thank you all for being here tonight, she said. Your generosity makes nights like this possible. Nights where we gather to support an incredible cause and remind ourselves how strong this community really is. Polite applause, clinks of crystal. My hand stayed in my lap. Leo clapped, though, his small hands making a soft rhythm beside me. He looked up at the stage like he was watching a queen speak to her people. I want to take a moment, Natalia continued, to thank some people personally. The people who helped me get here. The ones who taught me what it means to be resilient. I sat up a little straighter, my fingers curled around the edge of the tablecloth. Some people lift you up with love and encouragement, she said. Others, well, they teach you in different ways. She smiled wider. My sister Sophia is here tonight. Leo looked at me, eyes wide. Mom, she's talking about you. My stomach dropped. She taught me strength, Natalia said, by showing me exactly what not to do. Laughter. It started small, then rolled across the room like a wave. I froze. Natalia sipped her champagne, unfazed. Raising a child alone, she went on, isn't easy, especially when you do it the way Sophia did. With no help, no partner, and, well, no plan A. Louder laugh this time. Leo's smile faded. He looked around, confused. Why are they laughing, Mom? I couldn't speak. I always admired her boldness, Natalia added, choosing single motherhood not because she wanted to, but because no one else chose her. Gasps. More laughter. My face burned. Leo blinked at me. Mom? I reached for my napkin, fingers trembling. From the other table, my mother chimed in. Not to stop it, not to defend me, but to pile on. Well, she's used up, Regina said, voice bright and unbothered, but she's still got a good coat of polish. Uproarious laughter, like we were characters in some sitcom. I sat there, every muscle in my body locked tight. Leo turned back toward the stage. Why would she say that? I shook my head slowly. I don't know, baby. Natalia tilted her glass toward me from the stage, still smiling. To Sophia, she said, with mock sweetness, proof that you can survive anything, even yourself. Then she raised her glass higher and everyone followed. To Sophia, they echoed. I didn't lift my glass. Leo whispered, Is this a joke? Are they making fun of you? I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell him it was just a misunderstanding, just grown-up nonsense. But I couldn't get the words out. He looked back at me, his little face pale. Why is Grandma laughing? I swallowed hard, staring at my plate. I could still hear the laughter, still feel it ringing in my ears. Sitting in the middle of my sister's fairy tale, I had just been cast as the punchline. And for the first time, my son saw it too. Leo tugged at my sleeve again. Mom, he whispered, his voice low and shaky. Why are they laughing like that? Did you do something wrong? I blinked, trying to steady myself. I hadn't moved since the toast. My hands were still curled around the edges of the napkin in my lap, twisting it until it nearly tore. The laughter had died down, replaced now by the soft hum of conversation and clinking silverware. But I felt like the whole room was still watching me, even if no one was looking. I scanned the tables. Nobody met my eyes. Cousin Elise, the one I used to babysit, was giggling behind her hand with her fiancé, pretending not to glance in my direction. My Uncle Doug checked his phone, thumb scrolling with sudden interest. Even Grandpa Al, who used to sneak me candy under the table at Passover, sat there staring into his drink like he didn't know me at all. Not one face held concern. Not one person leaned forward or mouthed, Are you okay? Just polite avoidance. Cowardice in tuxedos. Leo shifted in his chair. Mom, he said again, quieter this time. Are they laughing at you? Really? I couldn't lie anymore, not when he was looking at me like that. Scared, confused, waiting for me to make it okay. I leaned down, my voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, baby, I think they are. He blinked, mouth trembling slightly. But why? And how do you explain to an 8-year-old that some people confuse cruelty with class, that they hide spite inside silk and smile while they hurt you? I sat up slowly, heart hammering in my chest. I looked around again, willing someone to say something, to offer some basic decency, some tiny gesture of support. Nothing. Natalia had already vanished from the stage, back to her sea of admirers. My mother was sipping her wine, nodding along to some conversation like she hadn't just helped humiliate her daughter. Across the room, a woman I didn't recognize was already whispering into someone's ear while glancing in my direction. I didn't need to hear it. I knew that tone. I looked at Leo. His eyes were wet, but he wasn't crying. He was holding it in. That made it worse, because he shouldn't have to. And suddenly, I saw myself, not as I was, but as Leo saw me. The version of me that had just been paraded around and mocked like a cautionary tale. The lesson his aunt delivered in sequins and cruelty. If I stayed or if I smiled through it, kept pretending. What was I teaching him? That love meant swallowing shame? That silence was strength? I folded my napkin and set it on the table. Put your jacket on, sweetheart, I said softly. We're leaving. Leo looked at me, eyes wide. Right now? Yes, right now. I stood, legs a little shaky, but my back straight. For once, I didn't care who saw. Let them look, let them whisper. Because I wasn't walking out because I was ashamed. I was walking out because I was done pretending I should be. We were halfway to the ballroom doors when I heard the mic crackle behind us. Sophia, a voice called out, clear and steady. Wait! I turned around slowly, unsure if I'd imagined it. It was Javier, Natalia's fiancé. He was still on the stage, standing beside the jazz trio's mic stand, his bow tie loose, face unreadable. He looked directly at me, not around me, not past me. At me. Sophia, please don't go yet. The room began to shift. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even the jazz pianist let his hands fall still against the keys. Natalia appeared again near the foot of the stage, eyes wide with confusion. She was mouthing something to Javier, but he ignored her. He didn't ask permission. He took the microphone from the stand and held it with both hands like he needed to steady himself. I wasn't planning to say anything tonight, he began. His voice was calm, but the tension was building in the room like a string pulled tight. But I just witnessed something I can't pretend didn't happen. Natalia stepped forward slightly. Javi, she said, smiling nervously. What are you doing? He held up a hand to stop her. You had your moment, Natalia. Now it's my turn. A ripple of gasps. Natalia's smile twitched, faltered. Javier looked out at the crowd, then back at me. I've known Sofia for years, he said. Not as long as some of you, maybe, but long enough to know who she is. My breath caught. She's a single mom who works brutal shifts saving other people's lives. She's the kind of person who shows up when others don't. The kind who doesn't ask for applause, who doesn't fake kindness for a camera or for clout. Silence. And tonight she was humiliated, not by accident, not in passing, but deliberately, on a stage, in a room full of people who laughed when they should have stood up. He turned to Natalia, slowly, his voice suddenly sharper. That wasn't a tribute. That was a hit job. A collective gasp swept through the room. Natalia looked stunned, mouth slightly open. I don't care how shiny the venue is, how expensive the centerpieces are, or how many cameras are here, Javier continued. Cruelty in a gown is still cruelty, and I won't be part of it. He stepped off the stage, mic still in hand. The click of his shoes echoed with each step as he walked toward me and Leo. He stopped just in front of us. His face softened. You're the strongest person in this room, he said to me simply. And they all know it. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, one hand on Leo's shoulder. Javier turned to the crowd again, his voice steady as steel. If this is what family means to you, he said, locking eyes with Natalia, then I want no part of it. And with that, he handed the mic to a stunned waiter, gave Leo the faintest nod, and walked straight out the ballroom doors without another word. The room was frozen. You could hear the chime of a single fork dropping. Natalia stood in place, rigid, her arms at her sides, her perfect posture suddenly brittle. No one said a word. And for the first time all night, I didn't feel alone. The silence after Javier's exit was different than the silence before. This wasn't the hush of elegance or polite indifference. It was thick with discomfort. The air itself felt heavier. Natalia still stood near the stage, eyes glazed, her cheeks burning with a forced smile that wouldn't hold. Her champagne glass trembled in her hand. My mother broke the stillness first. That was taken out of context, she said, waving one hand in the air like she could erase what had just happened. People misinterpret jokes all the time. No one laughed. Someone coughed. A man near the front of the room looked down at his phone like it had suddenly become the most important object in the world. Regina looked around, voice strained now. Natalia didn't mean any harm. You all know how our family jokes around. It's humor, that's all. Still, no one laughed. The spell was broken. The glimmering fantasy they'd wrapped themselves in, the gala, the curated charm, the illusion of superiority, had cracked right down the middle. And now, people were shifting in their seats, avoiding eye contact, whispering in ways that had nothing to do with envy or admiration. Leo looked up at me. Can we go now? I squeezed his hand. Yes, baby. We're going. I lifted my purse, slung my coat over my shoulder, and turned toward the exit. As we passed the head table, I felt it, not just eyes on me, but something different. Respect. Not the fake kind. Not the showy, surface-level nods they gave each other for appearances. This was quieter, real. A few people straightened in their chairs. A woman I barely knew, one of Natalia's co-workers, I thought, offered a small, sad smile and lowered her eyes. Someone else murmured something to their partner. I didn't catch it, but it didn't sound like gossip this time. It sounded like regret. When we reached the doors, I felt a hand gently touch my arm. I turned. It was Grandpa Al. Bent a little more than I remembered, his eyes glassy but clear. He looked at Leo, then at me. I should have said something years ago, he whispered. His voice was so soft I barely heard it over the low hum of the band restarting in the distance. I nodded. Thank you. It wasn't much, but it was something, and I chose to accept it without bitterness, not for him, for me. We stepped out into the lobby, where the air was cooler and free of perfume and tension. Leo held my hand tighter as we made our way to the coat check. Are you okay, Mom? I stopped and knelt down to his level. I'm more than okay, I said. I'm proud of us. He didn't smile right away, but he nodded. We walked out together, side by side, our shadows stretching long under the glow of the streetlights. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to look back. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their version of family. I had mine, right next to me. Fingers curled tightly around mine, eyes forward. That was enough. 3 days after the gala, someone posted a video on Instagram. It started shaky, filmed from behind a floral centerpiece. But the audio was clear. Natalia's toast, Javier's interruption, every word captured in crystal clarity. The laughter, the silence, the walkout. Within 24 hours, it had over 70,000 views. People I didn't know were tagging the video. This woman deserves better. What kind of family does this? Javier, you're a real one. Strangers flooded my inbox, not with questions, with kindness. Some shared their own stories. Others just wrote, "You didn't deserve that. We see you." I didn't reply to most. I didn't need to. Their words weren't for validation. They were just a quiet sort of witnessing. And for the first time in a long while, I felt seen without having to bleed for it. Natalia, predictably, tried to recover. She posted a carefully lit video 2 days later. Hair flawless, voice soft, like she was cradling glass. Some of you may have seen a clip from our charity gala that's been taken a bit out of context, she began. My speech was meant to be lighthearted. Family has always been important to me, and sometimes humor doesn't land the way we expect. She dabbed her eye with a tissue like it had barely touched her skin. Anyway, she added with a smile, just wide enough to show her teeth. I've spoken with my sister, and everything is fine. We hadn't spoken. I was too busy working back-to-back night shifts, running calls, rebandaging wounds, getting Leo to school, cleaning up after a flu bug, ordering groceries. Life went on. But it felt different now. Not lighter, just straighter. Like something inside me had clicked into place. At the station, nobody asked about the video. But I noticed small things. Captain Ruiz passed me a cup of coffee without a word. Maya, one of the newer EMTs, rested her hand on my shoulder after a long run and said, "That thing online. They were wrong about you." I didn't say thank you. I just nodded. That was enough. One morning, after I'd just gotten Leo ready for school, there was a knock at our apartment door. He was still brushing his teeth. I opened it. A delivery man stood there with a bouquet of wildflowers, the untamed kind, like they'd been gathered from someone's backyard instead of a florist's freezer. There was a small card tucked into the stems. To the paramedic who saves lives quietly, J. I didn't cry. I just set them on the kitchen table and smiled. That night, Leo watched me as I brushed my hair in the mirror. "Are you still sad?" he asked. I met his eyes in the reflection. "No," I said. "Not anymore." He leaned his head against my arm. "You're still my hero, you know." I kissed the top of his head. "I don't need to be a hero," I said. "Just your mom." And in the mirror, we both smiled. That was more than enough.